Evie.
Hi, Yvonne. How are you?
I'm good. We're here. We're live.
Here we're live, and it's always like a treat when I know we are live.
It's here. It's working. Yes, it's all good. It's all good. It hasn't
Absolutely.
melted away like people are doing at the moment with the heat. It's all good. We're stable.
Uh, how are things there? Is there a lot of heat at the moment?
Yeah, so
At
we're now in
where?
another, I think this is supposed to be like the third heat wave.
Oh,
That's supposed to be lasting, I don't know, 5 to 10 days. So, yeah, it's lovely and cool inside. Outside, not so cool. It's just hot. Which, there's always this thing, and I know we do the whole weather thing, but it's, you kind of ask for the heat, then the heat comes and it's too much. It's like, and I'm not going to go into all the reasons why it's happening, how long we now have to put up with this. We take the day as it comes. It's just like so much simpler and find the resources that help us through those days. That's what I'm doing.
good stuff. I mean, there isn't much you can do anyway. So yes, let's control what we can control, and that's that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
else can just be.
Let
So what are
nature
we
do her
talking
thing.
about today? We are back on myth busting today. We had our special last week, talked about the compass, and I hope that some of you did go in, experienced it, and we had some feedback. All good there, but yeah, keep the feedback coming. It will be great to
Yes.
hear from
Yeah.
you, right?
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll keep on posting the link because I think it's really worth
Yeah,
just keeping that invitation open and encouraging women to
absolutely,
go and test,
absolutely.
go and just try it out. If even again, as we said last week with the midlife compass, even if you don't want the PDF version for yourself to keep, just to go and experience it. And that's really completely personal. Nobody else gets to see it. It's all for you.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
And
all a
I
good
just
thing.
want to say the QR code we have here today is like for the permission to thrive, like we always have. But on this page, you will always also find the link to the compass. So
Yes.
if you have missed it somewhere and you don't know where it is, what's what, just check out this QR code and you'll still get there eventually. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think as always with these lives, in case somebody's here and they've not seen any of the ones previously, that Permission to Thrive, it's all about myth busting. Some of the narratives, stories, phrases, patterns that we have developed, much of it coping mechanisms, much of it for safety purposes over the years, but that we are still embodying and that are perhaps not required, or certainly not required for all the circumstances in which they appear. And so, really, this is about building our awareness so that we can decide, actually, is this the right course of action? Is this thought that's coming up the one that really fits this particular situation? And to start being discerning about where these patterns and these narratives take us. And the one that we're looking at today is the constant readiness myth and this need to be ready. And that's the first phrase is I need to be ready.
Mm.
So I'm going to hand over to you, Effie, and just say, one, is this a phrase that you are familiar with? And perhaps an example of how that's played out for you.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. That really was the pattern for many, many, many years in my life, and it has, as a procrastinator, it really hurt my progress, and I say hurt in inverted commas, not really hurt, but in a way, it slowed my progress because I needed to be ready. I needed to have done certain things. I needed to have learned certain things. I needed to um, look a certain way. I needed to. Oh God, the list is endless, and it is such a myth because eventually you find out the moment you decide, okay, that's it, I'm going, ready or not, you realize you will never be ready. And it doesn't really matter, because we need to start where we are at. We don't need to start somewhere else. So if you're not completely ready where you're at, start there. And I really love that as a notion, because it freed me so much from this have tos and shoulds and all these things. But it has really played a big role in my life. What about you, Yvonne?
Yeah, I definitely think that when my avoider, saboteur, inner critic, whatever we want to call it, was at its peak, this definitely played out for me. The need to be ready. And it wasn't about perfection, because I am not a perfectionist. Like, everything doesn't have to be, but ready was just that, yeah, but the pieces fix and it makes sense. And actually taking away the ability to create things and let it flow and see what arises. There wasn't, let's see what arises. So that was like certainty. I needed certainty. And one of the things that I kind of love now is that I'm really good with uncertainty. And I've learned that, to understand that actually I don't need to be ready. I just need to take one step,
Mm-hmm.
and let that one step be as tiny as it needs to be, as long as I take it, and then see what comes from there. So for me, the biggest shift has been away from the need for certainty to accepting that uncertainty is part of life. It's part of the play, it's part of the journey, and being able to embrace that in the same way that I would certainty. And if I go back and I think about projects that I've worked on before, and thought about, actually, had I been willing to embrace certainty then, they would have ended up differently. At the same time, acknowledging that maybe that was one of the lessons I needed to learn. Maybe that was part of what needed to occur for me to get to where I am now. So there is no holding it against, I should have done, and maybe, and I could have learned so much more. And I can let all of that go and just say, I see it. I can see how the pattern was preventing me from going where I needed to go next. And more often than not, was that step. Just take one step. Take that step. It's fine. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't work out the way that I had it plotted in my head. So what? Maybe the way that I plotted it in my head wasn't even the right, well, it wasn't in the inevitable right way of doing it anyway. So yeah, there's a lot of freedom that comes with recognizing this particular pattern, how it plays out, and testing letting go of it. Because for me, this is all about, we get to test this out. We don't start beating ourselves up about it. It's like, okay, well, if I don't allow this pattern to show up in this situation, what do I do next? What does that look like? How does that feel? And start to realize that, okay, this is not the horror story that I thought it might end up being. If the certainty isn't there, if the next rung is not full of certainty, if there is some uncertainty, that's okay, because all the while, and I think this is like a life lesson, all the while we're learning. We're either gaining lessons to help us in the next phase, or we're gaining wisdom to help us in the next phase. There are gains to be made, and that's not to kind of diminish the really difficult things that life can sometimes put in the path, or that come up in the pathway. But understanding that even when we look at all of those, underneath it all, at the root of most of those things, there is a lesson that will help us move forward, and there's wisdom that will serve us for a lifetime if we keep hold of it.
For sure. And I mean, what does certainty mean anyway? I have really very good examples in my life where when I was very certain about certain outcomes and nothing really worked out. So it's not about, certainty, even if we are completely certain that it's going to happen. I don't think that it is that it is real. Certainty is just an idea, and similarly, it could be an idea to just start without being so hung up on that particular end, because at the end of the day, you you have a vision, you're going somewhere. Now how you're going to get there, it doesn't really matter, and that's where the rigidity hurts. It's better
Mm,
if we just let the flow, let the ease and flow that we are talking about take you. And that one step is also freedom, because you don't need to do 10 steps, just one. And as you said, Yvonne, one step, it's easier to take than 10, because you feel that there isn't that much of a risk in that one first step, right? In a way. And I think that everyone can take that first step from wherever they are without feeling that the whole game will be lost if they're not doing the right thing. And that, that first step is not going to take them to exactly where they are planning to go. But yeah, I think it's a big trap when you are thinking, ready, 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 I have to be ready. And I was listening to what you had to say there, and in my mind, it was just, I could hear all these narratives that were playing in my head when this was my pattern. It was like an endless monologue of like, yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. And it was like, oh my God, I really did that so much that it really blocked me. And it's so important to really eliminate this but out of our vocabulary as much as we can. I think that yes and is so much better in so many respects. It gives us that opportunity to see the possibility rather than blocking what we are seeing, what we are thinking about. So yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
What is your take with this yes, but yes, and kind of scenario?
I mean, definitely, if we can, the lens that we put on anything is kind of where our focus and our energy goes. So we know this, if it's a yes, but, then we'll always be focusing on the bit that comes after the but. The yes and keeps it much more open. Interesting though, when you were speaking and you were saying about like the monologue, and it was this yes, but, and there was another one, and then there was something else to back it up. That's safety seeking. It's a safety seeking mechanism. And that's what, and I think it's important to name it, because I think to break it out of it when you've been doing it for a long time is not as easy as just saying break away from it. It's recognizing it. It's starting to see where it's coming up and start to see, well, actually, well, in that circumstance, it still feels like the right thing. Okay, what about in the other circumstance? What about in this one over here? And you said, like, certainty is, there's not that there's no such thing, but certainty is doesn't rear its head as probably as often as we would like it to.
Absolutely,
I think
absolutely.
that's truer, that it doesn't rear its head as often as we like it to. Therefore, we have to constantly be willing to live in a state of certainty and uncertainty. Some things, yeah, will absolutely go the way that you thought, you planned, you hoped, and fantastic. Then there's this bag load of things that will not. And know that that's okay too. Because there are lessons to be learned in certainty and uncertainty.
Mhm.
And the lessons that we take from either of those, both of those, it's like what is it that I want to take from this that definitely helps me in the next day, week, year, month, chapter of my life? What is it? And again, it's really kind of almost easy to verbalize that and say that, because when you're in the thick of it, it's like, no, you're still looking for safety, you're still looking for the anchor, you're still looking for that. But actually to be able to come up and take some air, to say, okay, I understand what is going on here. However, I want to think about the yes and, as opposed to all the yes buts that are appearing here. I hear them, I see them. What about the yes and? What does that look like? And give yourself some breathing space. And we always mention the pause. I don't think there's a week when we don't talk about pausing, but this is why pausing is important, because we need to slow down and hold on a moment. Like, you cannot even recognize these things if you do not pause, because they are auto. Boom, 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 boom. So pausing, it becomes such a huge part of any of this, because you've got to recognize it to actually be able to, I see that. Oh, I see how that played out that way. Yeah.
I can definitely hear you. It is allowing yourself to, oh, okay, even if it is hard to consider it, allow yourself the possibility. It doesn't mean that you have to follow the yes and game, but at least try it out, see how it feels. I think we spend a lot of our lives in, because we do, in our heads, and we do try to mitigate as much as possible of any pain or anything like that. It stops us from actually seeing the possibility. So there is nothing wrong with seeing the possibility. Okay, don't act on it if you don't feel comfortable about it, right? I mean, I know at the point of my life where it was all about being ready, I couldn't, and you're right. When you're in the thick of it, you're not really seeing anything else. You find every possible scenario under the sun that proves to you that you're not ready for whatever reason. So, okay, you're not ready. What would it take to be ready? What would be the worst thing that could happen if you took that first step, even if you were not ready? Why don't we ask the right questions?
Mm.
And this is, I think, a great lesson that I learned. Asking the right questions. At the end of the day, it is a conversation you're going to have with yourself. Nobody else needs to be privy of that. So play with it, pause,
Yeah.
and listen, and don't be judgmental. Just see what are other options, what are the possibilities, and it does make things so much better when you see things with curiosity, doesn't it, Yvonne?
Yeah. And it's literally, if I do this thing now when I still don't feel I'm ready, what what might what might happen? So the outcome, as you said, what might I gain? Because it's not all about what you might lose, what might you gain? And that's giving yourself the time to just weigh up and decide that, yeah, no, I definitely need a bit more soil under my feet, or do you know what? I'm okay. I'm going to just do it anyway, and let's just see what happens. It's literally, for me, there's something about spaciousness and a bit of freedom that you allow yourself to experience. Because I think if we go through life waiting for everything to be ready, what life are we living? What does that life really look like and feel like? And how little of ourselves are we exposing, are we allowing to be in this pursuit of readiness? I, as I look at my own life, gosh, I think if every time I had opportunities and I had waited for myself to feel ready for them, there's a lot of amazing things that I would have missed out on. And so for me, it's a lot of the time I have I have veered on the edge of being risky as opposed to being ready, but accepting that and accepting the outcome of that. Because I'm like, well, if I'm prepared to take the risk because I don't feel as ready as I would want to or like to, then it's on me. And I will take whatever comes out the other side because I know at the very least I'll learn something.
But that's it, isn't it? Like in that space that the learning is happening in the unknown. Because if everything that and every step we take is a step of certainty, and where we know where we're stepping, basically, where is the learning? Where is the
Mm.
even the excitement, even that thing that you don't know, that thing that will surprise you, that thing that will light you up? Where is all this? So, we cannot really pick and choose when it comes to uncertainty. I think most of us, if we are honest with ourselves, we are uh, more like really excited when something happens that we're not expecting. And it's a good thing, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with that to a point. I would say that some things that go to plan, if you're hosting an event and everything goes to plan or it goes better than you planned, fantastic. Of course you'll feel joyful. Of course you'll feel good about that because, hey, this is all the things I put in place and it went according to plan. It was brilliant. Fantastic. And celebrate that because that's also something to notice and celebrate. In the same way that if things didn't go exactly to plan but the outcome was, let's just say it didn't go to plan, and yet the outcome was still a good one, then there's something to celebrate still.
Absolutely.
Or if it didn't go to plan and you think, oh, had I spent a bit more time doing this or that, it would have been better, then there's your lessons. There's your lessons, right? So this is like, you don't lose. There's not really a loss. It's about being able to see it, be accountable, and just say, fantastic, it went brilliantly, it went according to plan, wonderful. Didn't go according to plan, could have been better over here, done this, I know this for next time. It's being able to enjoy the learning curve as much as getting it right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this is the whole point. Is like everything that we do, it is about learning. It's about growth. It is about understanding a little bit more ourselves, our
Mhm.
patterns, and I think that's exactly where that leads. If we allow for the possibility to show up, um, it doesn't have to happen. Just to like see that it is there. That is the thing. Being open to something else being there, right? So I think that this takes us very well to the second phrase, Yvonne. What if something goes wrong?
And there you have it.
Well, oh well, a lot of things can go wrong, and things go wrong no matter how well prepared you are, I think. Not always, right? But they can. So it is definitely a phrase that I think we all consider. I don't know what you think, one, but I definitely have considered it. But now I'm more like, eh, if something goes wrong, I'll learn about it, like from it, and then I'll move on and do it better the next time. So I'm very nonchalant about it. But yeah, there was a time that wasn't the case, of course. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, what if something goes wrong? I have definitely used it in the past. I can't say that I haven't. However, there is something to do with, how you train yourself to respond to things. I remember delivering a training session, and a lot of it was interactive and kind of group stuff, really moving away from having to use any technology. But there was a section that was using technology. and the technology failed. It didn't work. I was in their building anyway, it wouldn't work. So now I could have stood there and thought, oh my gosh, that's completely thrown me out the window, and catastrophized the whole thing. That's what I could have done. Instead, I was just like, okay, so I still want them to get this piece of information. I still want that interaction. How else can I deliver it? It's as simple as it was just like, I just need to ask myself a better question. Something you said earlier. Ask myself a better question and do that. And and I'm not saying that that's always easy. And I'm not saying that your mind will always make that accessible either. It's the practicing of it that makes it easier. It's the practicing of it that allows you to tap into your creativity with greater ease. And yeah, there are circumstances where you need to be able to do that and know and trust that you can handle what arises. And that, again, the first time it happens, it may completely throw you completely off track. Okay, so take the learning from that. And then the next time, if it happens, oh, I remember what happened that last time. There are things I can do. So for me, this is really giving yourself permission to know that stuff will sometimes go wrong. Everything does not go according to plan every single time. And then how am I going to handle that? What does that mean for me? How have I resourced myself to be in those situations and be present with them and work my way through them without catastrophizing and making them even worse than what they are.
Yes, absolutely. I can even see that, like in my, mind's eye, in the past. But like also the one fabulous thing about getting into a situation like in a tight corner, let's say, is that you gain evidence of what you can do to overcome difficult situation, and the more of those evidence you have, the better it is, the better it is for you, that what you can handle, that you got grit, that no matter what curveball you are faced with, you're going to manage it. And I think that unhooks you. So it's sort of like um, becomes like the self-fulfilled prophecy, but like in a good way. That, okay, yes, it happens, right? Like, a couple of weeks that we couldn't go live. Wait, okay, it happens. We found different ways. It
Yeah.
really, I mean, I can't say that I wasn't like really upset about it, but not upset in a way that, this is a catastrophe and what's going to happen and blah, blah, blah. It was more about, I really need to figure it out. And I did eventually. But okay, it took my good time. It happened. So
Absolutely.
this is what I think when I'm seeing this type of phrases and how they played out in my life earlier, and how they play out now. And I think it also, I love the lightness of it, of not really putting a lot of um, like I would say now heaviness, yes, but in situations,
Yes.
and not making them, as you said, catastrophizing, like not making it like the ultimate hard thing that happened that really ruined your life, whatever. I mean, most things in life are not there. There are things that obviously are. But I think what we mostly deal with and handle in our lives are not that heavy. They might be serious, but they can, like, depending on how we handle them, they can lighten up and they can help us grow, can help us progress in an easier way, move forward in an easier way.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, and I'm just going back to this particular phrase, what if something goes wrong? Every time I hear it, and I'm literally listening to it in my head, what if something goes wrong? What if something goes wrong? What are the chances that everything will go wrong? Something might go wrong. Something isn't everything. So for me, it's
Mhm.
almost like, okay, well, yeah, something might go wrong. Okay, I'll deal with that in the moment. Um, and I think it's because from my own experience, I know that if I held on to that phrase every time a challenging situation came up or an opportunity came up, and I got on myself to the point where I thought, oh, but what if something goes wrong? Wow, so many great experiences that I would not have had if I had allowed the phrase to become the truth. So that's the thing.
Mhm.
Is the phrase the truth? What if something goes wrong? Okay, well, I'm accepting that something may go wrong. I'm also accepting that I'm willing to ground myself when the fear appears so that I can think more clearly and be able to access what I need to turn anything around, to turn the situation around, to remove myself from the thing that's gone wrong and replace it with something else. I remember going on, or being invited to speak at an event in Jordan. Jordan? Anyway, maybe it might have been Jordan. Anyway, but I remember being invited to speak at an event, and when I say short notice, I mean short notice for me. Now, somebody else may be able to be ready to go and speak on the day if the opportunity arrives. I was like, I had like a day and a half, and I had to fly there yet. So this was just like I could say no because I absolutely didn't have certainty. I wasn't even given a topic. It was just like, oh, we just want you to talk about something that does X, Y, and Z. I'm just like, oh, well, that's like a whole load of stuff. That could be so many things. So there was a real opportunity for me to think, you know, what if something goes wrong? Or I'm just not ready enough. Or there were lots of things that probably did come up, to be fair. I'm not saying that they didn't even show up, but I just thought, I'm going to do it anyway. Because I remember there was who was it? I think it was Richard Branson. There was one of his quotes that just said, just say yes and figure it out afterwards. Words to that effect. And so I thought, well, I can go with, I'm not ready, what if something goes wrong? Or I could go with say yes anyway and figure it out. So I'm going to go with say yes and figure it out because that actually feels good. That
Yeah.
was it was like, how did that feel in my body? Which felt better in my body? Well, say yes and figure it out. Of course. So for me, there's also giving yourself that space to how does that land in me? And if it is full of fear, be able to pause and be with that. What is it that drives that? What is it that's that's allowing that to run the show? And if it's yeah, do it anyway. Okay, well that feels good. What is it? Why does that pull me? Why does that land well for me? And for me, it's because I'm open to the experience. I'll have the experience, and I'll take from it what I'm meant to take from it.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is that fear is the our constant companion, let's say, and it shows up pretty much like I think in every time that we have a phrase or a story in our mind that has been playing for a long time. I think it is a good opportunity when you recognize the patterns and when something comes up to sit with it and see if fear plays a part. Because if it does, then it is the time to ask the question: Is that true. Because so many times in my life, at least, fear, even though I consider myself quite fearless, but you know, like, yeah, I consider myself, but clearly I wasn't completely fearless, and I'm still not completely fearless. But like, when you sit with it, when you allow that space and you process it, and you realize that everything is like directed by fear, then keep asking the question, is it true? And even if you get the answer that is yes, ask why. Because eventually, and keep asking why, because eventually you're going to get to that state where you realize that, well, fear shouldn't really be there for whatever reason, because nothing like catastrophic is going to happen. 99% of the times, it doesn't. When you're asking this question, like, what's the worst that can happen? 99% of the time, the worst doesn't happen. Because if it did, like, we would be very different, a very different species, I think. I don't know, as humans, for some reason. But yeah, I think this is an important an important point to take. What is fear for you? How does fear show up when these phrases show up? And pick it,
Yeah.
and process it, because fear can give you a lot of awareness about things as well.
Yeah. But I think fear also is also that thing that plays into wanting to stay safe. And, and there's a part of our brain that wants us to stay safe. So that and it's not about now having to do battle with the part of the brain that wants to keep safe. It is the recognition of it. And is is my not doing this really endangering me or not? So it's even
Exactly.
just asking the question, is this really endangering me? Or is it just that it's an experience that I haven't had before? And so my brain is just saying, no, I need to keep you safe. Go. What is it? Get to the root and then
Mm-hmm.
be able to make the decision from that place. Um, yeah, I think that that's
Yeah,
really important.
it does sound absolutely right. The way that you are explaining it, it's exactly that. And I think with this, we can love and leave our viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we'd love, and we always say this at the end, is, what has your experience been about, readiness? Do you always feel you need to be ready? Are there certain situations or circumstances where you feel yeah, I absolutely do need to be ready? And what does that, because I'm all about like the body, is like, how does that feel? That need to be ready. How does that feel in the body? Is it stressful, fear-filled, or is it I need to be ready? Is it something that, that readiness actually relaxes you and makes you feel calm? And how ready is ready? Because I'm that my for me that big question is, how do you even know when you're ready? I mean, really ready. What does that look like? We just want to explore, so we'd love to hear from you. Your thoughts, your opinions. Do these phrases show up for you? How they show up? And is there any sense of them keeping you small, stopping you from doing things that, yeah, actually I'd love to do that, but I don't feel I'm ready for it? Just to share, because actually sharing is such a huge part of this. Getting an insight into other people's experiences is good for all of us. So, yeah, that's me done.
Thank you, Yvonne, for sharing this space with me once again on this Thursday. We'll see you all next Thursday. Thank you for being here live or on the replay. Share, express, and see you next week
Indeed. Thank you.
live. Now that we have figured it out.
Definitely.
Bye.